Honored to be here. I will be taking it a little bit from the theoretical to the very practical in my presentation, and I will be sharing with you some of the learnings that we made with climate farmers in 3 years of working with farmers in 16 different European Union countries to actually transition towards regenerative agriculture. I had a presentation prepared for you. I'm wondering if it's going to come up here. Otherwise, once we start, you can probably skip the first 3 slides. I would have been talking about the planetary boundaries. You all know this. I would have outlined for you why regenerative agriculture is the best way forward. You all know this directly as well. So we can directly move on to slide 4 once we have the presentation online. And what that will be talking about, I can already say now. We basically analyze what we think are the main reasons why regenerative agriculture is not scaling. So the thing that has been amazing us at Climate Farmers is, as we have heard in the many presentations today, we all know that it is the thing that makes sense. We all know that it sequesters a lot of carbon, but it's not happening, right? In the European Union, there's almost no farmers actually practicing regenerative agriculture. And we identified several reasons why that is the case. One of those reasons is that we actually have issues with getting to the level of having enough model farms. Farmers are not impressed with PowerPoint presentations. Farmers are impressed by other farmers. So what we need to get to is to get 10% of all European farmland under regenerative management. And once we have that, we believe that getting from 10 to 100% is going to be no problem, because at that point we have farms where we can bring other farmers and we can show them on the soil how it is working practically. This is what we have been seeing already, because we are organizing these kind of field trips. And when you take farmers to farms with healthy soil, they behave like children in a toy store. They get pretty excited. They start playing around. And that is the thing that is getting us excited as well. So once we have the presentation up and running, we can maybe move to slide number 4, and then we can go further from that one. This is where that is where I was before. So we have the issue of 10% farmland under regenerative management, and we have the issue of payment for ecosystem services, and for making the case that regenerative agriculture makes economically sense for farmers. Because this is the other issue that we're seeing massively. Those farmers which are actually practicing regenerative agriculture right now, they're not getting paid for that. They're most of the time getting the same price as conventional farmers. So they're putting in a lot of extra effort. They have to buy sometimes new tools, new machinery. They have to pay for consulting services. And there's no financial accreditation for that one for them. And as long as that is not financially making sense, we will not see regenerative agriculture at scale. Next slide, please. So in order to get there, we need 2 main things. One is knowledge, one is finance. Next slide. Just to let you know. So the core issue on the knowledge side, it starts always a mindset. So as you maybe know, over the last 50 years, what we have been teaching farmers in the European Union is to focus on yield and on yield alone. And that is a massive issue. If we want to have regenerative agriculture at scale, we need to unlearn the focus on yield. And we need to teach farmers, or to help farmers to understand that the thing they should be focusing on is soil health. Soil health is the underlying issue of regenerative agriculture. And soil health is what would be driving the transition towards regenerative agriculture forward. Next slide. The other one is finance. There we see 2 key ones. The one is measurement of ecosystem services. And then the second one is payment for those ecosystem services as society. One thing that we will be getting later into is what, for example, we also heard this morning already from Sechem. Carbon credits are definitely one of the things that's moving already. We think carbon credits are by far not enough. What we would love to see is the society, and I think politics play a major role here as well, to pay for other ecosystem services as well. Biodiversity is also slowly getting some attention. Another major one is, for example, soil water storage capacity. I come from Western Germany, a region that has been flooded in the last year by the floods. These floodings would not have happened if we would have healthy soils. So what I would love to see is for governments to actually pay farmers for the flood mitigation risk, which they would be doing by having healthy soils. We're very far away from that. Maybe there's some people in this room that can take this back to your respective governments or people to maybe make this happen. Next. So we have been testing in very close contact with our farmers in 2020 and in 2021. And since this year, we are running 5 different projects ourselves, which we are using in order to help farmers with that transition. Next. The first project is a farm enterprise analysis, where we're using basically mathematical modeling as well as satellite data to help the farmers to understand what transition would make sense in their specific context and to help them analyze their farm. A lot of farmers don't have the business plans that you might expect them to have. So we're actually starting with that one, figuring out what is the things which are working well on the farm, what are the things which are not working well, and what are the areas where it would make most sense to slowly start the transition. Transitioning towards regenerative agriculture is never a 1 or 0 game. It's always a gradual transition. And usually it starts by running experiments on some part of the farm. And then when those go well, you start expanding to more areas. Next slide. Once we have done the farm enterprise analysis, we integrate the farmers into our community. We come from a startup context. Some of you might know this as well. We love to work with fancy tools. Slack is one of those fancy tools that we love to work with. We tried to get farmers on Slack, didn't work. Now we're using WhatsApp. Every single farmer that I ever met has WhatsApp. So we have WhatsApp communities, which are managed by farmers on a local level and on a European level, depending on the different areas that they're working in and depending on the regional focus of them. Next slide. Another issue that we have been seeing in the last few years is that there has been a hype around regenerative agriculture. And as it goes with every hype, there's a lot of people that are jumping onto the train. And in terms of consultants, that led to the fact that there's now a lot of fancy websites out there where people claim to be regenerative agriculture consultants. Unfortunately, most of them don't really know what they're doing. So we got a lot of feedback from farmers, which were conventional, were interested in regenerative agriculture, started contacting these consultants, and were then very frustrated with that experience. So what we did, we built a farmer-backed consultant database. If you want to join that database as a consultant, you need to be verified by one of the farmers in our community. And then every time you consult a farmer through us, we get a verification from that farmer in again. So if a farmer decides to pay for a consultation, he actually knows that that consultant holds what he speaks about, and he can check with other farmers if it's really true. Next. Then we have a transition blueprint process where we essentially take the farm through the entire process. We look with them, what is the context of the farm? What is the ecological context? What is the implementation plan? We integrate them with the community, and afterwards we support them with data collection. Next. For this data collection, we have developed a methodology together with Wageningen University, and together with them, we're basically using 3 different areas based on mathematical modeling, as well as satellite technology, as well as soil sample, in order to analyze the regeneration that's taking place on the farm. And then next, and then we're almost at the end of my presentation. From this, we are developing regeneration credits, again, very similar to SECAM doing it here in Egypt. We're basically looking at the regeneration that's taking place. We're measuring the increase in carbon, biodiversity, soil water storage capacity, and we're enabling the farmers to get paid for that. Right now, we're doing this through the private sector, through companies that are interested in carbon sequestration and compensation. I would love, again, to have governments involved here and to have government paying for ecosystems purposes of farmers. And then we're already at the end. Generally, the approach that we're always taking, we can't do everything by ourselves. So we're always looking at this systemic level, and we're collaborating with anything from research institutions to universities, to companies, to government institutions, in order to figure out what are the levers and the acupuncture points that we need to push in order to scale regenerative agriculture. Thank you.